he tried to claim that J.K. Rowling's got canceled because all she said was gender is a fact, and it's like you're kind of you're misrepresenting the facts here. Like, she wrote an entire like anti-trans manifesto. Like, she said a lot of things besides that. So like saying it was just that is a big mischaracterization in my opinion.
100%.
Dave Chappelle, that Netflix special. I stayed up late as fuck last night after that fight, and I gotta admit, it was a pretty good laugh. I enjoyed myself last night. Did you guys watch it? I'm assuming yes.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about it?
I'll let somebody go first.
I didn't. I think Dave Chappelle is a very interesting performer. I miss old Dave Chappelle. I will say that much. I miss old Dave Chappelle. I miss like Killing Him Softly Dave Chappelle a lot. I think he does have a very interesting relationship with the trans community. And it's weird because he has these moments of like empathy, like the way that he closed out the show. I loved it. I actually thought it was a solid way to close out the show. I thought it was a good story that he was telling about a friend of his. And he has just such empathy. It's not as funny as some of his previous specials. I think Doey said that he didn't laugh until like halfway through. I was about the same. It was about halfway into the special that I had my first like good laugh.
Yeah, 30 minutes in, tenderize them titties like fucking chicken tenders. I'll see you what are chicken cutlets. I was dying. Yeah. And believe it or not, I watched the beginning again with Booch, and you know, when I saw all the backlash, I think it gave me an angle to watch it at, and I think that's not always the best thing to do. I think you kind of gotta like watch it yourself and just kind of enjoy it. I thought that first half is not too bad. Definitely, he's changed a lot in the past few years. I think he's still a master storyteller, though.
He definitely is.
Like,
yeah, I thought it was genius. Personally, I loved almost every single second of the special. I felt like he was wrong about certain things. Like he tried to claim that J.K. Rowling's got canceled because all she said was gender is a fact, and it's like you're kind of you're misrepresenting the facts here. Like, she wrote an entire like anti-trans manifesto. Like, she said a lot of things besides that. So like saying it was just that is a big mischaracterization in my opinion.
100%. That's one of the things that stuck out for me too.
Yeah, there was that, and then there was this whole space Jews thing. I'm not into the not into the anti-Semitic like Jews run the world or Jews are enslaving minority. I'm not interested. I'm not into these like kind of things.
I didn't even get it as a joke in and of itself. Like even the setup and the delivery. Like he said the punchline twice because the audience didn't even realize they were supposed to laugh the first time that he said it. There was like 3 dudes chuckling the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel, believe it or not, I think that was intentional, because then when he, later on in the special, when he tells the story about the black slave who got freed that enslaved other black people, then he's like, how could an oppressed group of people that go get free go on to, oppress other people? They're actually making a movie about it. It's called Space Jews. And that was like his, like, he's going back to, oh, actually, I wasn't actually talking about a black slave that enslaved other black people. I was talking about the Jews that experienced an entire Holocaust, and then they got a plot of land, they made some money, and then they went on to enslave black people.
Shit was clever.
Right, it was clever. I just don't agree with the characterization that Jewish people are enslaving minorities. I don't.
Yeah, I mean that like goes into like the Jewish question, and then once you start going into that rabbit hole, you start to hear that that not that many people died in the Holocaust, and then they're like, "Hold on, bro, you seriously?" Once you start going down that rabbit hole, you start to see like a lot of conspiracy theories that are very unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the view stems from, and I could be completely off base, but I have a hip hop background, right? I know a lot of the hip hop artists that got into a lot of record deals that just ripped them for all their money. Like NWA is a very famous example of that. was there were Jewish owned record labels, and there was a like a anti-Jewish sentiment because all these black musicians were getting, into these terrible deals with Jewish record labels, and it kind of created this whole thing where like, oh, the Jewish people are doing the new slavery because they're like, but it's like at the end of the day, we're talking about we're talking about a minority of people, not minorities as a race. We're saying how many people are musicians, right? Like no, almost nobody in the grand scheme of things. So it's a little bit of a weird characterization in my view to say Jewish people are out here enslaving people. Like the mass. It's like maybe they're fucking over, some percentage of musicians, and even then, it's I don't know. I just find it a little strange to just. There's an irony there, right? Where he's saying, how could another oppressed people go on to oppress other people? And it's like, how could another stereotyped people go on to stereotype people? It's also because he's stereotyping all Jewish people to be this like boogeyman that's enslaving people, and it's kind of, I find the statement a little ironic. But
I did like.
Go ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say right in the beginning, I chuckled pretty hard when he did the gay rant part, like where he was like, "Yo, the gay people got it figured out. If 100 years ago, if we were just wearing booty shorts with oil, we would have ended slavery. We would have got through all this oppressed shit." And to me, I'm like, damn, that shit is so fucking beast. Because I'm thinking about it, it's like this man is trying to make friends with the LGBTQ community, but then he just hits it with a backstab like into his joke, which is clever for me. But I think that, and then some of the other things, like he started going back to saying something about how, oh man, I forgot it now.
So about that first thing, I don't think it was so much a backstab. I think he was trying to illustrate like gay people have a privilege over black people, and I feel like he was just trying to illustrate that. I feel like that's what he was attempting to illustrate. Because when he was like, he's like, yeah, when you get into a discrepancy with a gay person or whatever, as soon as they call the cops, they're just a white person now. Like now it's just a white versus black issue, and it's like, and even that, it's like it's very, you're minimizing, a bigger issue here, right? But I feel like that's what he was trying to. I feel like that's what he was speaking to.
Oh yeah, and you brought it back to the point where I forgot, because that's when he said like it was a white gay guy, and when he called the cop, it was that. But if it was a black gay guy that called the cops, then they could get potentially shot.
He's saying the black person wouldn't, or the black gay guy wouldn't have called the cops.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Yeah, he was like, they wouldn't call it because now we're just two black guys. It doesn't matter what your gender is and shit, or what, not your gender, but your sexuality. That matters. And I thought, like, at the same time, I was like, damn, like the man hits points and then comes back and then hits jokes with the baby comments and shit like that. And I was confused on how they said, "Oh, Dave Chappelle saved the baby." I'm like, I didn't see him. I thought
the baby joke was horrible. I was like, this is not funny.
I didn't like that joke. I'm not like it, but
he's an imbalance. I was like, what? Why do these two things you like equate? You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like as much as he is trying to, I guess his form of comedy is like teasing, I guess, in a way, because he sees the inequality. I like that he said that he was jealous of gay people. That's something to admit. And he sounded like he was dead ass.
I think that was a moment of seriousness. Honestly, I think that was a very serious statement, because I think there is a lot of jealousy for the progress of the movement.
Progress
in his comedy, which I think sucks. I think that it sucks that he looks at it as a zero-sum game where you can only care about one oppressed people at a time or something. Because I think it causes a lot of the statements where people call him transphobic. And I don't know if Dave Chappelle's actually transphobic. He makes a lot of transphobic jokes. He calls himself transphobic in the stand-up, but I think he does it ironically because that's what people call him. I think it's like his way of like trying to own what people call him online. He's interesting. The man is probably the best storyteller in the game. I can't argue against that. I've seen the guy live. I went and saw his first special at here in Austin, actually. His first Netflix special. When he was doing that tour, I went and saw that live. And the man's crazy. His control over the audience is just unmatched.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I find his storytelling and his punchlines to be just unrivaled. I feel like I could listen to Dave Chappelle talk about just about anything and it'll be interesting. Like, he just has a way of speaking that is fun to listen to. And some of the jokes, even then, some of the jokes I still kind of was like, like, is this like, are you really just like, you know, is this coming from a hateful place? Is sometimes how I felt. But unfortunately, like our previous conversation, right, we're saying, what are the rules of comedy, right? Like somebody was like, oh, I love comedy. Like you could joke about anything. And we're like, well, there's some things you can't joke about. Like you'll make a joke about it and people don't like it, you know, and they think you're a piece of shit and stuff. And it's just like, I think Mateo said it, like comedy is just whatever works. Like if the people find it funny, then it's okay to make jokes about that thing. If people don't find it funny, then it's not okay to make jokes about it. It's really defined by the people who consume it, right?
I like that. I like that statement that he. I like the way you finished that show a lot. I thought it was cool that his friend Daphne, the obituary where she said, or not the obituary in the Twitter post, apparently she said that Dave Chappelle doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines. I thought that was a clever way to do it. I thought that was really interesting, and I think comedy is very complicated, but I do think you can punch down. I do think that's a thing. I don't think it's necessarily like a joke always excuses things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was saying that. I think Daphne was definitely saying that maybe that it's just a joke, so that there should be some excuse there. It felt like more like Dave Chappelle was ultimately trying to illustrate like the LGBT community are more progressed they're ahead of where Black people and minorities are in terms of like social injustice, right? And so it's like I can't be the one who's punching down. Like I'm more like, as a millionaire, he's saying he's more oppressed than some of these other people, right? I feel like that's really what he was trying to speak to when he was both speaking to the jealousy of the LGBT community, that they're basically ahead of them in terms of progress, like the state isn't like actively like killing them, although you could make arguments that it's a little bit more indirect with like like trying to make like gay marriage illegal, like that causes like a bunch of distress, and then like the whole transitioning is important for trans people, and that causes a lot of distress. And it's like anybody committing suicide over those things, it's like you could there's a correlation between that and the rules that the state is imposing,
100%. Like you look at like the suicide rate among like trans teens and trans people in general, and you look at like violence against trans people, it's pretty high. I don't know what the comparison is between like the numbers between that and police incidents of violence against Black people, but I think that it's not impossible to care about both.
Yeah, I mean the raw numbers are way higher for like Black injustice with policing, because it's not just killing. There's like harming. There's getting in prison. Like it's those numbers get crazy, but percentage wise, I could be off base here, but the last numbers that I remember seeing was like the suicide rate amongst trans people was like 30%, which is like
that's nuts,
fucking insane.
That's
it's like
crazy.
It's like on par with like veterans. Veterans, I think, kill themselves at similar rates, which is also fucking insane.
That's craziness, man.
Because I think like 3 out of the 10 like military buddies we might have, like they might end up committing suicide. Like that's ridiculous.
That's sad. I will say, I think that if you are going through your life and you constantly have to whip out a friendship with a person from a different culture constantly to defend your behavior, you might want to rethink your behavior a little bit. Like I don't know. Like if you constantly have to reference your trans friend to prove that you're not transphobic, if you constantly have to reference your Black friend to prove you're not racist, maybe reevaluate yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When he brought up his friend Daphne, at first it kind of felt like is this like a I have a black friend? Is that like is this really what we're stooping to? But the story felt way more endearing to like chalk it up to just that.
I agree.
But yes, yeah. If like you said, if you're constantly having to say like like no, I advocate for all these racist policies, but I promise I'm not racist. I have a black friend. It's like, like I don't know that ain't gonna cut it. All right.
His name is Ben Carson.
Oh, God.
Do you really think he's making that book though that he said in the beginning?
I don't think so.
No way.
At first, I was like, "Damn, do you really think?" I mean, the titles, but like, do you really think he's making the book? Like, that would be a hell of a book. I would buy the book and see if I can get him to autograph it, and that way I can have something here. But oh, Dave Chappelle, did this book, and book's pretty fucking crazy, but signed.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't seen too much. I only seen one person on Twitter, actually, just one, that was calling for the cancellation of Dave Chappelle. Is this a thing after this special?
Yeah, a lot of people are.
I find that so strange.
There's some people
just because they're. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of people upset about it. Like I said, I think he's complicated. I think that calling for his cancellation is interesting. We've had to talk about cancel culture. I don't know if it actually exists. I think there's basically behavior and consequences. He knew he was poking the bear. That's the entire point of this special. It's trying to
100%.
It's comedy,
and I think that excuse works kinda sometimes. I think he is good at jumping back and forth across the line. I don't know how Dave Chappelle actually feels about trans people. All you can judge is based on his behavior and his specials. So I can understand the outrage, honestly. I can understand people being pissed off about it. I don't think it's going to do anything.
It's just weird to me, like, because back in the days, like with the comedians that were saying shit, like it would not sit well right now with this environment or the group of people that are or how this wave of our life is now. So it's like a lot of these sexual jokes or gay jokes or whatever jokes that come out now, it's a little people more not sensitive. I don't want to say sensitive. They're just more like their eyes are more open to what's disrespectful, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like Eddie Murphy's Raw. You ever go back and try to watch that one? That shit does not hold up. That is 90% just gay jokes and him making slurs about gay people. Like shit is. It's just mean. Like it just comes off as mean now.
Yeah, and it's one of my all-time favorite comedy, like stand-ups. Like in my memory, I haven't seen Raw in over like 20 years or 15 years or so. But like it was the pinnacle of what a stand-up should be in my mind, which is crazy. Just thinking back, like how mean it really is, right?
I don't know. I think comedy is interesting like that though, because like I watched Blazing Saddles this past week.
That fucking movie is good.
I rewatched it recently, and I've heard a lot of people like online say that like you couldn't make a movie like Blazing Saddles nowadays because people would be too offended by the movie. And I don't think that's accurate, because I think that it's always very obvious in Blazing Saddles that the racist people are the bad people in the movie. Like there's no one watching that movie and they're like, man, these racist people building this train, the racist townspeople sure are the good guys in this movie.
I've never even seen the movie.
You've never seen Blazing Saddles?
It's a great movie.
I'll check
classic.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
very charming.
I'm just like, I don't disagree with Tony that I think it is that people today are just way more sensitive. There's way more things that are, not only are there more things that are offensive, but the level to which people get offended is also insane. Like minor infractions are like, people are trying to cancel your people are trying to contact your employers to try to get you unemployed, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I do believe that cancel culture exists, and sure, if we want to call it like consequence culture or whatever, right? That's fine as well. It seems like nowadays people are way more willing to try to take away people's livelihoods than it was before. At least, I mean, I wasn't alive like many years ago, so I don't know how common it was for anybody to try to quote unquote cancel anybody. But throughout my life, this didn't seem like an issue until the internet age, and not even the internet age until really like the Twitters, like the really like 2010 or so is like around the first times that I'm like, all right, people are people are calling for these people to get removed pretty much from society.
Where is the where's the line with things like that?
Yeah,
because that's what I'm curious about, because I don't think that anyone here would disagree. I think there's been videos of like people going on racist rants and calling the cops on black people and things like that. I don't think anyone here is going to argue that it's fucked up that they put them on blast on the internet, right? I think that if if you're being that level of racist, I don't think there's anything wrong with people blasting you on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Where's the line there though on how outraged you can be about that? I guess, like, how angry should you be about things like that?
I think for me, if you say shit publicly, then there's consequences for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But going to a comedy show, you kind of have to have it like an open mind. Like things are going to be said. If you don't like jokes or don't go to the comedy show because you're going to get offended. That's what these comedians do. And some comedians go further than other ones. You know what I mean? Like Dave Chappelle's one of those that can go as far as he chooses to go. And it's just like, it's whatever. But you go somewhere and you don't want to get offended, and that's going to offend you, then why go? And then now you want to do a cancel thing. Like, come on, guy. He's not really out here pitching forks and saying F the trans and F this and do, you know what I mean? You guys say this and this about him, he's going to use it in his skits, and then he's going to, reverse it, and that's what he's going to do. That's what comedians do. So it's just the same thing with Kevin Hart. When he made his comment, they told him to apologize, or we're taking you off the gig that he was doing. He's like, I'm not apologizing for shit, and he did it, and then they tried to cancel him.
Yeah, and fuck Kevin Hart.
Yeah,
that was way more hateful.
Yeah,
like he was talking about beating the gay out of his kid.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle coming and trying to stand and like hero like Kevin Hart was one of the moments too where I was like, J.K. Rowling, DaBaby, and Kevin Hart. Those are the people you want to choose to try to defend your comedy special. That's an interesting choice. That's right.
I feel like the special is. Sorry,
it's just courting a certain kind of mindset, basically, when those are the people you're standing for.
He's a Superman.
I feel like the special is better served without those defenses of those people. It felt really strange. Like on one end, I am sympathetic that somebody made remarks and their quote unquote dream. I'd probably say it's probably his new dream, because probably his dream was to make it as an actor. Did that, probably make a lot of money. Did that, like sure, but his dream allegedly was to host the Oscars, and that was removed from him for comments that he made. And I'm sympathetic to that on a certain level, but on another level, he is a public figure, and he's saying some shitty things publicly. There's going to be some backlash to that. I don't know. I mean, to answer Mateo's earlier question of where does it end, or like I guess to what extent is acceptable. For me, I think ultimately it's like we put our money where our mouth is. You know what I'm saying? Like if when Mel Gibson said all his racist shit, like I stopped supporting Mel Gibson. When Kanye West did all his MAGA shit and I was not liking what he was doing, I was like, all right, I'm just not gonna buy his shit no more. And I feel like that's one extent. I find it a little bit strange when other people are trying to rally everybody to their positions and trying to like you know, it might be like dozens of people, right, that really feel like this. But if they poke at the right, you know, nests or bushes or trees, right, they could like really fuck some shit over for someone, right? And it's like that doesn't take away from the hateful stuff that person might have said, but it goes to show like like it required like, you know, this very small group of people doing a specific action to try to fuck somebody over, where I personally feel like just don't support them. Like if Kevin Hart is hosting the Oscars and that pisses you off, just don't watch the Oscars. And when they, you know, hopefully they see, okay, this is related to that, and then, you know, maybe they learn their lesson, right? But
well, in that line of thought, though, I mean, there's a lot of like pre-production stuff that goes into something like the Oscars. So if they know that there's a controversial figure that is probably going to drop off a lot of their viewership, I understand dropping Kevin Hart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you're like publicly saying like, all right, if Kevin Hart's hosting the Oscars, I ain't watching this shit. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It feels like there's another extent where you're like contacting, calling, sending emails to people, basically trying, like saying this in such a way where your goal is to get the person off of the thing. I don't know. I know this is almost like a difference without distinction, right? But something feels off to me. One feels like way more malicious than really hurt. Like you're hurt by someone doing something, and then you're gonna go off and be an aggressor yourself. Something just feels a little bit off to me about that, but I don't know. But I'm with you. I'm also down to advocate for the cancellation of certain things. So, I mean, it depends on the extent of how bad something is, right? And maybe that just goes to show that, like, while I am pissed off about what like, I mean, not Kevin Hart because that guy's a piece of shit, but while maybe I'm pissed off about what some people say, maybe I'm just not as pissed as other people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it fair that when somebody new comes out, that the first thing everyone does is go dig for old fucking tweets and shit like that, like edgy tweets and shit? Is there a difference between trying to be edgy and you know, we've all said some really dumb shit on the internet, and God forbid one day, you know what I mean, something of mine gets pulled up or something like that. Like, do you think it's fair that somebody be held them up to their, you know what I mean, hold them up accountability 20 years later? Because at this point we're gonna be 40, 50 years old, and 30-year-old comment could pop up. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the fucked up thing with that situation you're describing is that there's no winning in that situation, really. Like, it's a mean game basically that people play where they dig up your old shit and then they throw it in your face and they're like, hey, what about all this shit you said? And even the people that apologize and they're like, yeah, I'm moved on past that, there's some percentage chance that apology is not going to be good enough, that the excuse of I've grown in 10 years is not going to be good enough. Now, granted, this is kind of with like the Kevin Hart thing, except Kevin Hart was a grown-ass man when like this old shit they found was like he was still like 35 or something. And that's pretty fucking old to be making some of these statements. But I think with like some of these young kids, I think there was an athlete where they found like some like tweets or something from when he was like 15, and he dropped like the N-word or something like that. And the kid's like now 22 or something, about to like some of that shit feels kind of shitty. I don't know. It's complicated, man.
I think it's really fucking shitty. I think on two different levels. One, I don't think you should be going back to no little ass kids past to try to find whatever stupid shit. Kids are fucking stupid. Like, that's a
100%.
Like, to go back and try to hold children accountable, or try to hold some adult accountable to what they said when they were a child, and really destroy their future. Like, there's some athletes that maybe were going to college, maybe getting like, and their college teams drop them because they lose their scholarships because they fucking said the N-word like 7 years ago or something. Mm-hmm. That seems ultra fucking shitty. But beyond that, though, even Kevin Hart, if he said some shitty shit when he was 35 years old, like that could have been me. Like depending on what year, right? It's like while I did get more wisdom or more empathy or knowledge as I've gotten older, it's also because the times are changing.
Yo,
Like,
we were watching South Park. Yo, I don't know if y'all remember South Park. Like, yo, they were openly saying FAG. They were openly saying like all these racial slurs. And I was just like, yo, this is pretty intense. 10, 15 years later.
It was
Now
just a different time.
21.
It was a different time.
Years later.
That's all it is. Just like Ren and Stimpy. I don't know if you ever watched Ren and Stimpy growing up.
Why is it so hard to watch Ren and Stimpy?
it's just so ugly. The animations are so off-putting.
They look ugly, but I found it amusing.
As
a kid.
The animation does look like you feel like you can smell every scene in Ren and Stimpy, and they all smell bad.
That guy ended up being some sort of fucking pedophile or some shit like that. That guy's a fucking huge weirdo.
Yeah, I think it's the Ren and Stimpy guy, right? It's one of those animators from Nickelodeon.
Yeah. Well, I heard Nickelodeon has a whole other set of problems.
Yeah,
that Dan guy. There's some dude that used to work. He made all of that. He produced all these shows, iCarly, Victorious, all these really huge big shows for Nickelodeon. And he had a foot fetish, and he would ask kids for their feet pics on the Twitter. And this guy was like amassing a foot collection. If you go back and look at iCarly and like all these shows, there's a lot of like feet scenes, and he was like super into feet and shit like that. So yeah, this guy was a fucking weirdo. Apparently there were sexual predators working on the set, like the cameraman and shit like that. Like they all have history with like shit like that. So like apparently that was going on for a long time at Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon a few years ago let him go. Apparently Amanda Bynes, that girl, she like says that, you know, shit has happened. He did shit.
And where is this all at? Where did you see this at? Or you just something?
I'll send you like the videos.
Yeah, it's all over. There's been some articles about it and shit like that too. Yeah, it's craziness. Parents, don't let your kids get into like, the entertainment industry unless you're really keeping a close eye on them, because that shit's crazy.
It's all the camps that they go to, all these camps where the parents aren't allowed and shit like that. They're like, they'll go to a resort, and then they'll tell you like, oh, but if you really want to get noticed, you got to go out by the pool. That's where all the girls, you know, that's where all the talent gets picked up. Basically telling you strip down and go get into a bikini and go stand by the pool, and maybe one of the execs is going to like what you look like.
I mean, like that. To be fair, that's how we discovered Doughy. That's how we came up with, you know, we got our
terrible.
Doughy in the bikini is a sight.
Yo.
A sight for no eyes.
He had his titties out last night bouncing him.
Oh my god, that was atrocious.
I like that.
He fucking took a tank top.
I like that all three of us just made a conscious effort not to even acknowledge him.
I did.
Dude had a fucking tank top, and he like pulled it in, so he just had like this shit like this with two tits hanging out.
Can we insert the image here?
Just don't fucking acknowledge it. I don't want to look at it. And he didn't give up. It lasted like 4 minutes before I was just like, put your fucking tits away.
There's gonna be an episode where I shave my entire body. I'm gonna do it, guys.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
We're gonna get shut down because of that.
Free the nipple.
Free the nipple. That's a fact.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Free the nipples. Sure. Not those nipples though. Those nipples need to be.
I got the pepperoni. The pepperonis.
No, though.